Hello everyone, welcome to the Nail Tip Show. Welcome to our first class of acrylic training. I'm so excited for this because I know this is what most of you have been asking for. So today, like I said, this is our first class, so we're really going back to the basics. I think the fundamental techniques are really important, and it's a building block for you to become a professional nail techs. So give me a couple minutes here. I'm gonna set myself up and we're gonna start, okay?
Hi everyone, my name is Tiffany with the Nail Tip Show. Before we get started, I just would like to say thank you for everyone who is tuning in to support us and just showing appreciation to our channel. We love providing all this content for you guys because we know it's super important for you guys to be elevating your skills as nail artists, nail technicians, and nail professionals. And here at the Nail Tip Show, that is all we want to do. Our goal and purpose is to help provide value for you and just help you elevate your skills by watching our YouTube channel and just sharing our knowledge with you guys. If you guys would love to continue to further support us, we're asking and we're inviting you guys to take or to provide donations to help our team. Your donations will go directly to helping keep up with the production that goes on behind the scenes and the team that helps create the best visuals for you guys as you guys are learning. You'll notice today that while you're learning, you'll be able to see so clearly on so many different angles as Anne will be providing the skills and techniques for you. And that is all because of the production and the team that is behind the cameras helping, and that's what your donations will be going towards. If you can't provide financially by donating to us, that is absolutely okay. We understand that it is hard times right now. If you can't provide donations to us, we would love to invite you to help us by just taking a screenshot of what your screen looks like right now, or just taking a picture of your station before we get started and just posting that on your Instagram or maybe posting it on Facebook and just tagging us. We would love for you to spread the word about what we're doing here, and we thank you again for just supporting us. If you are interested at all in donating, there is a link in the description box down below, so you can just click on that and just help us. But again, this training is still absolutely free and available for everybody, so there's no pressure. We hope that you continue to join us on day 2 of our training, as it is a 3-day training. So the next day we'll be back on here live around this exact same time. Is going to be Friday. So we thank you again, and we appreciate your support, and we could thank you in advance for your donations.
Okay guys, so let's start, okay? So on the flyer, I'm gonna help you to start with proper nail preparation. I mean proper nail. Sorry. Okay, so let me get it again. Perfect nails begins with proper prep. Okay, so today I'm gonna focus on hand filing and e-filing, because I know not everybody good with e-filing. I'm very comfortable with e-filing because I've done it many years, and of course, you know, with I've been teaching as well, so it's very comfortable for me. But I get it when you're starting new, or you have done it a little bit, but you don't have enough experience or enough training for e-filing. So I'm gonna do both. So then I'm going to take some time and do both. So then if you have questions, feel free to ask me, okay? I'm going to go into really in-depth, step by step. So yeah, so I have a hand here. I absolutely did not prep at all because I want you to see the process of it. As you can see here, the cuticle, everything is untouched. And then I have what I have done is just kind of thin down some of the product with like these two these 3 fingers here, she had some product, and I slightly thin them down because that's all I did. And then this gonna be a natural nail, this pinky and the thumb. So I'm gonna show you how I hand prep and prepare you for your service. So whether you use whether you provide any enhancement service or for just a manicure, nail preparation is really key to have the product stay on and last for a long time, right? So first you have to wash your hands. Now, you know, with pandemic and we're going through things, washing hands is so important. So I have washed, and she did too. But the next thing I always do is, even though they wash before they come in for the service or while they're waiting for your service, I recommend ask them to wash them first. But I also spray slightly just in case, because sometimes while they're waiting they might touch the phone or something. I always want to kind of spray with alcohol, 90% alcohol, a little bit, just so then you can start your service. Okay, so the next thing what you want to do is you don't have to have all the pusher here like I have here, but I just want to show you there's varies of metal pusher you can use, or you can use the plastic pusher as well, because I find that plastic pusher is more gentler on the nails. So if you're beginning, if you're just like a beginners and you don't have, you know, fancy tools like us, so don't worry. Get even just the wood orange stick is fine, or the plastic one too. But I have few metal pusher here that I use, because professionally, you know, every product you use, you have to sanitize and disinfect them. So metal tool is best because I can reuse them, you know, over and over again. So first thing you do is push back the cuticle, right? You're just gently pushing back the cuticle. So give me a second, let me put on my glasses. Okay. Because a lot of people ask me, how do I know where to stop and what to do, right? So when you're pushing back the cuticle, you see that thin, white, chalky surface, that's cuticle. Basically, that is dead living tissue, and you want to get rid of it. Because if you don't, in a couple days, it's gonna get lifted. So you want to be very thorough when it comes to prepping. Okay, you don't just prep the center of the nail, but you want to make sure you get all the size, especially the U shape of the cuticle and the lateral size, because I find that a lot of people mistaking not to do that as well. That's where, you know how you get lifting around the sides and on top of the cuticle here. I'm sure you have seen that, where a lot of product just come loose along the sides, right? Along the side, and then around here. That's because you didn't clean these area as well. So in few days, what happened? It lift away. Okay, so I'm gonna gently push back. You see? You're pushing back. You see, the more I push back, you see, if, honey, can you come closer? Right here. You see how just lightly pushing back, I have more nail surface. You see it? Because what happened is that this area grow out cuticle to protect your nail, but in time it all dried out and it's just dead living tissue. So if you don't prep this area well, then that's what happened. It becomes dead and dry and just gonna be peeling off. So what you do is I just put a gentle pressure. You don't You shouldn't anyway, should not put pressure while you're prepping. That's not the key here. The key is to be thorough and know which area you want to focus on. The reason I always take more time pushing this, the size, the lateral size, which is the size wall here, and the cuticle area, because that's more like tight area, so I want to focus on that first. The rest, I can buff lightly. You see it? You see how pushing that back, I have more nail surface to work on, and you see slightly clean already. Okay. All right. You guys see that clearly? So this is just hand prep, okay? I'm not worried about the bit or anything, but you can do this just as thorough and it's just as effective. You don't have to, if you're not really good with e-filing, you can, this is just as good. Okay, you see how much nail surface exposed I have right now? Just by gently pushing back the cuticle and the size. Okay, again, remember the size as well, okay? This is Acrylic. It's like a pushing tool. It's really cool. I like it because it allows you to go tight on the size wall and the U shape of the cuticle. So then when you take picture, when you're done with your work, the cuticle looks nice and clean. You see that? Okay, so then, or you can also, if you have a file, you see this edge right here, you can also use that and slightly buff the corner as well. Yeah, I'm doing very slow so you can see. You see here, I'm sort of using the kind of mimic the U shape of the cuticle, and I'm just going the size of the file and kind of lightly file the corners and the edges, so then I won't miss anything. So this is a really cool tool as well. And remember, on natural nails, you're only allowed to use 180 grit, okay? Or you can go 220 or 240, but I say 180 is, I find that it's really effective. Just filing, I find that 240 might be too fine, but 180, but no more lower than that. On natural nails, 180. Okay, so I kind of mimic the same way, and then I just lightly buff the corners. You know, doing this slowly just because I'm showing you, but if you kind of understand the step, you can move quicker and be more efficient in the salon. But I just want you to watch how I do it, so we really taking the time, because I know a lot of you asking, you know, like how I do it, how much I know what I'm doing is correct. Basically, you just want to take the shine off the nail plate, okay? You're not supposed to filing to get layers off the top of the nail plate. Just taking the shine off and taking that you see that chalky white kind of like skin, that's cuticle, and that's like a non-living tissue. So you want to get rid of that. Does that make sense? So now I always want a nylon brush and dust that off. You want to dust that so then you can see how much you have done. You see now, when you look closely, you don't see that white. You see a little bit here, but you don't see here anymore. Basically, you've buffing them off already. Yeah? Okay, and if I go back, once I dust everything off, I'm gonna go back. I want to see if I could just kind of push that a little bit more. you don't want to cut too much. You want to get rid of the cuticle, but you don't want to get rid of the epinicium, because that layer is there to protect your nail plate. Because if you cut that off, your client can easily get infection. So you only allow to trim off the cuticle area, which is the non-living tissue. Everything else, you just want to push back and keep it clean. Yeah? Okay, now with this, again, 180, I can lightly buff the surface. I'm just gonna lightly buff everything. Very gentle touch. And then at the same time, it's certain area that I need to do this. I just take the edge of the file and lightly go over it. Okay. Very important, guys. The better you do this, your product, doesn't matter with polish or gel polish, dipping, gel, acrylic, it will adhere on really well. So now for prepping, unless you work with natural nails, if your client want to keep it, but if you're going to add enhancement on top of the nail surface, I recommend to trim slightly short. Make it short, okay? And then you want to shape the nails into like almost like a round shape. And you always angle it 45-degree angle of the file to shape the nail. Especially when you're doing form, you need that underneath the nail slightly thinner so then your form can fit in better. Any questions so far?
Karina asks, will washing hands cause lifting?
No. Are you talking about before surface? I mean, before your service, or before you put the application? I mean, the product. Verify that, please. What did she say? How come I don't get that? Mm-hmm.
That's all she asked.
Okay. If washing does not matter, we're gonna go through that. It's gonna be included in the next steps, but no, I would say definitely not. Okay, so now you can see the nail is much better, right? It's in a better shape. Okay, and then if I feel like I need to push back a little bit more, okay, if you do gel service, I would say clean it really well. But if you do enhancement, what I meant just is gel polish. You want to trim the cuticle now, so then right before you put the gel polish, then you have a nice clean surface. But if you were doing acrylic enhancements or hard gel enhancement, anything enhancement that you gotta do prepping, finish filing later, I suggest don't cut too much cuticle. Because while you shaping and cleaning the surface of the nail, you gotta do more prepping around the cuticle anyways, so you don't want to thin down too much the sensitive area right here. Does that make sense? I usually nip the cuticle after everything is done, all the finishing step with filing. Then if right before I ask her to go wash her hands, I'll nip any hangnails or cuticle, because by then I'm done with filing. Whatever I can't get rid of it yet, this is a good chance for me to nip that off. But I usually, my personal preference, I don't nip all the cuticle, anything, until I'm done with all the filing and finishing step. Okay? Okay. So now, like I said, for the cuticle area, you can also buff it's always nice to go and file lightly because you do a very gentle touch. So basically you just want like the chalky surface, and make sure you take the whole shine off. If any shine that you see, you make sure you lightly buff it. Your nail in average has 50 layers in average, right? But some people have more, some people have less, depends on the nail matrix and the thickness of your nail. So by filing it off, that's why you want to keep as layer on as much as possible, that you ensure the product to adhere better. So you don't want to take too much off, but you definitely just want to take the shine off. Is this easy enough, you guys? You can do hand filing pretty quickly too. Like I said, I usually wait until I'm done with everything, then I nip everything off. Okay, so that's just one part of the hand filing, right? So now let's do e-filing, okay? So I'm going to show you for e-filing. I have a couple bits here that I'm going to share with you. You don't have to have everything, but there's few that I find that it really helping to get the works done. Okay, so the first thing I highly recommend is the sanding band. I feel like this is a must-have, and most of the time this is only prep bits that I use for my clients. I have very different prep bits too here, but I usually don't use all on one client. I just have it because with certain clients, they have very stubborn cuticle, and you know their cuticle so dry that I need extra help. Then these bits comes in really handy because you know I can use this to do a little bit more work with it without hurting my client. So it doesn't really matter if you use a sanding band or these tools. The reason I like this sometimes because it's smaller bits, so then I can get to the tight area around the cuticle area and around the U shape and the lateral size. So this is what I recommend. But in normal setting in a salon, this is the only one that I highly use because I love it, because you can just dispose it and you're done with it. You don't have to sanitize the bits, but you know you need it. I would highly recommend, if you have to have, just for beginners, maybe one of this is fine too. Basically this diamond bit, I'm gonna go on detail more about the bits and stuff when it comes to the e-file class, but right now let me quickly. So basically this is a diamond bit, basically just a tiny diamond particle impregnated into a carbide bit. Okay, so then this is almost like that, except this is more like a disposable version of it. I can just throw it away. So the grit on the fine sanding band is 180. Okay, and now that I find out that there's a 240 sanding band too, 240 and 220. I think there's the grit even higher for finer shaping. But I would say fine is mostly, that's what I use. Okay, so it's just matter of preference. Okay, so let me show you some of this, and then mainly the sanding band first. Okay.
All right, we have some questions
Okay.
before we move on.
Yes.
Nicole asked, do you use the cuticle bit to buff off the dead skin?
Yes. Yes. Well, yes, you do. Okay, so let me just say in average, in most setting in the salon, this is what I use, and I want to show you right now, okay? So I have her, like just say a client come in, I have some just product on. That's okay, don't worry about it. The main key here, same thing. You still want to push back the cuticle though. Okay, no matter what you do, pushing back cuticle is really like a key here, because the more you push back, you have more surface to work on, and you're getting rid of that that living tissue, which is the cuticle area. You see how I'm pushing? You see that chalky that living tissue coming off? Those are cuticle, and you want to get rid of it. If you don't push it back here, the cuticle, first of all, it's not going to get into the nice round shape that you want. And then in a couple days, everything you apply on, it's going to lift off. So always push back the cuticle. Always. No matter you do hand filing or e-filing, because that's really the key here. Okay?
All right.
Uh-huh.
Another question asks, sometimes the customer comes to take off the full set and the customer has green inside the nail, and sometimes the same happens with dipping powder and the nail is painful. Why did it become green?
It's become green because it's lifting. Because your clients, I can't, okay, so let's just say whether maybe not your client, but the previous person that did her nail, they didn't do a good job of sealing the edges and the lateral side in the cuticle area. So there's two chances why that become green. Either she put an impact on the nail. When you put an impact on the nail, such force, the nail pop in the center, okay? So when that happens, you create a little bubble at the center of the nail. So over the courses of time, like a week or two, that area is empty. So now slowly water, dirt get trapped around it, right? Inside that bubble. So because it's tight, it doesn't have air to evaporate and anything, that harbor bacteria, because it's slowly become moldy and yellow, green, then blue. So if she has, color on, she couldn't see it, then 2-3 weeks it becomes colored, like I said, yellow, green, then blue. So that you have to take the nail completely off and then try to buff it off. But then if it's still green and blue, then ask her to wait for a week or two to come back. But in the meantime, you can ask her to treat that nail with apple cider vinegar or hydrogen peroxide, and just lightly every day using that, because either the apple cider vinegar with just a mild bacteria, it would kill the bacteria itself, or hydrogen peroxide will do the same thing. So that's what you should do. We should not put product on over moldy nails, especially if you buff it lightly and you can get rid of color. That means it's already stained the nail plate. It start eating the nail plate. So you want to have nothing on, so then with cleaning and just keep it healthier by maintaining with apple cider vinegar and peroxide. It will help a lot, and slowly it will get rid of the color and the stain. Any more questions?
Yes. So Leah asked, so the 180 grit on sandy bands are the best ones to get?
Yes. Two sanding bands I highly recommend is fine and medium, but that's it. The reason medium, I use it a lot when you do backfill service. I'm gonna show you that when we do backfill class, okay? But for right now, let's just stay focused on prepping. Anything involved with prepping, ask me, and I will, because I want to stay focused just one class. Everything else, we slowly gonna get to it. Yeah, is that good? Okay. Because even though I have it here, I can't see the comments, so I have to rely on Tiffany. Can you please just give me all the questions that they ask me? Okay? Because somehow, I don't know why I can't see everything. So anyway, let's just say you push back. Push back everything, right? You see now, every time you push back, your cuticle area become better shape, the U shape, you see it? This is why you have to do it. Okay? You have to do, especially the lateral side and the U shape of the cuticle. It's a must, guys, because a lot of people miss here. And again, I'm going to repeat it. If you don't clean it here, this is where you're going to have a lot of lifting on the sides. And because this is a soft area of the nail, it's easily, get lifted too. So that's why take care of the lateral sides and the cuticle. You see by pushing that back, you see how nice it look already? I have done nothing yet, but look at the cuticle. It's in a better shape already. Be very thorough, okay? This is a very important step. You can be more efficient and move quicker, but don't skip your work. Okay? And then what I'm gonna do is, let me clip that up. I always like to shorten it down. Okay, and the same, I'm gonna use 180 grit. Usually I put tip, usually I do sculpting nails anyway, so I usually just shape it round or look slightly oval, so then it's nice. Okay, so now, once I'm done with everything, I'm gonna take the sanding band. I always do a fine when I do a full set when the client come in with no product, because fine, it just, like I said, it's about 180 grit. And then I'm going to turn my E-file on. So with E-file, you only want to use, different E-file have different RPM to it. So if you use the Coupa one, it has 30,000 RPM, right? So if you turn it all the way, it's going to be 35,000 RPM. But for prepping, in average, you only use from 5, 6 to 7 or 8,000 RPM. That's it. You are not allowed to use more than that. Okay, remember, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the range that you should be using only. So you look at, if you buy the E-file with the number, great, then follow that either 5, 6, 7, 8. But if you don't, then just kind of, if you divide it, if you turn it all the way, like in a circle, it's 35,000 RPM, right? So if you go half, 30,000 RPM, I'm sorry. If you go half in the center of the dial, that will be 15,000 RPM. Then you just want to go maybe slightly less than a quarter of that, and that will be about the same range that you should be doing. Does that make sense? Does anybody have questions about that before I move on?
Someone had asked, how do you avoid the nail from lifting?
Again, this is what we're doing. This is about prepping. Prepping is really key for adhesion of the nail. So prep well. Just do really a thorough job on prepping. But I'm doing slowly in stages. Okay, so I'm gonna by the end of this class, I guarantee you understand why we're doing it. Okay? Okay, so I'm gonna dye it up. Okay, so I'm gonna go really in detail how you can E-file the lateral side as well. When I'm working on a client, I always start from the side here, because I'm right-handed. So I guess the left, you can do the opposite. But then for right-handed, I just go slowly. So basically, I'm using the edge of the sanding band. I'm using this edge right here, just like if you were using the edge here to file the lateral side. I'm using the edge of the sanding band to do tight area on the lateral side and around the cuticle area. So basically, I'm always turn my client hand slightly like this because I need to see where I'm going. Okay. And even with this low speed, like I said, you're not going to hurt her. But your goal is just want to take the shine off and prep that area nice and slowly. See? And as I'm going, I'm turning her finger to the direction so that I can see where I'm going with a bit. So see how I can get tight around the lateral sides, the side walls here? with the bit. And your cuticle slowly getting cleaner and cleaner. It's gonna get prepped, and now I'm slowly if you're working on a client and you're gonna add more enhancement on, and if you have a little bit product on here, don't worry about taking completely off as long as it's not lifting. It's not bubbly, it's not lifting, then you may leave it on if it doesn't distract whatever you're doing. Because I don't recommend you take completely everything off if it's not necessary. If it's a little bubble right here, then yes, I want to take it off. Slowly, just take the edge of the sanding band and work on that area slowly. You see, because the way I angle it, I kind of make it parallel to that side. I'm not pointing that down. I keep it parallel, so that way you don't have rings of fire. If you keep doing this, you're gonna create a little dent. But if you keep it parallel, you're just working around the edges to get that little bit of that powder off. You see it? With the same speed, I'm able to do that. When I'm doing prepping with acrylic enhancement or with hard gel, I like to start with a medium, but in most part, fine is really good too. Okay, so far everybody good? Okay, I'm gonna do it again. This one. I'm gonna show, because I know hand filing, e-filing, a lot of people want to learn. So let me focus on that. Let me push back the cuticle area. You see how this is not pushed back? Once you push back, you see that U shape really nicely already, just by pushing back the cuticle. Okay, so now I'm going to turn my die up slightly, and I'm going to go slowly again. Let me show you. I turn the hand to this side and start from here. I always use this finger, taunt the skin down as I'm doing it, because that way you open more area for you to work on. That's why you get really tight on the lateral sides. So by pushing this down, it allows me to go tighter. See? Go slowly so you can see it. And this is how you prevent your product from lifting. It's really cleaning that size and all around the edges. You see little chalky dead tissue flying off, coming off. That's because you are cleaning it. So now, come to this side. As you're going, you turn so you can see the area that you're working on. So now, I just clean that up, everything. And now, once I've done that, I just take the sanding band, go back and forth, or go up and down, and do the surface area. It will be really quick. I only do this like about 3 rounds. Like I go 1, lightly, and I go back again. I would say no more than 3 times. 2-3 times are plenty for you. Just make sure you go really tight, and then contour that cuticle area. So same thing, right? I push around the cuticle area already. You see that slowly, you see that chalky white skin coming off. So you're slowly getting rid of all that. Very light touch. And with the low speed, you're not hurting your client. You're not doing any damaging on the nail plate. And this will ensure you all your products that you put on will stay. Okay, so far so good, guys. I'm gonna show you, look how nice the cuticle look now. Gonna shape, again, tilt the file, 45-degree angle. I keep repeating because I want you to get this in your head so you remember it. And the length of the nail, you can keep like a maybe 1 or 2 millimeter out. You don't want to cut all the way in. A little bit length is slightly okay, but not long. Okay. Does that help? Any questions? I'm going to do it one more time just in case. So you can see how I move my e-file, okay? Because I know a lot of time, a lot of people really don't see. It looks easy because when I do it, because I know what I'm doing, it takes a little practice, and you have to put you don't have to put pressure. E-filing, same thing. You want to let the machine do the work for you. You don't want to put pressure. Just matter knowing the speed that you need to use and what tools to use. That's the important part, but no pressure at all. Okay, so now I have little product too, right? Don't worry about it. I'm gonna dial again, turn slightly, taunt the skin down, and do the side. And keep the bit parallel to the nail and the angle you're going. You see the camera, how I'm going really tight, slowly. Okay, I'm gonna go through one more time. Very light pressure, very gentle. I'm not hurting her. I'm not putting pressure. That way I'm not hurting myself as well. And if they're a little bit on the bubble, the product, you see a little chalky white, that means it's slightly lifting on that edge. Just slightly keep the bit parallel to the nail and buff that off. That's it. And I'm just gonna keep whatever product left, I'm just gonna keep it there, but make sure it's not lifting. I just clean and take the shine off. You see? Yeah?
So someone asked, so it's okay to have a little bit of acrylic left on the nail. You don't need to take it all off?
No. It's okay to leave it on if that doesn't interfere the look of your whatever you want to design. Like just say, because I know I have nude powder slightly on her nail plate right now, but if I'm going to put the nude color on, then it doesn't matter. As long as it's not lifting, then it's okay. If it's lifting, then you want to take that off, of course. But if, like you could tell, let's just say I dust everything off, her nail is not bubbly. I mean, you can see a little bit enhancement on the side view because it's not even. But if you're not, I don't want to waste time. Taking everything off is so unnecessary. And then if I take too much off, sometime in a hurry, I might, take more than I should. Then you're gonna have unhealthy nail plate. So why do extra work when it's not necessary? So just leave it on if it's not lifting. And if you're gonna put another acrylic color on, or let's just say she wants just overlay, and then she wants another gel color. So it doesn't matter what you put on another nude color that will cover the whole thing, and then scope and then apply the acrylic overlay, and then shape it, and then put the color on. So then it's fine. It will not lift your product. I guarantee you.
Another question: do you have suggestions for the best e-file for a beginner on a budget?
In my professional opinion, I have teaching, e-file class for quite some time with Coupa. If you're gonna, I like to invest in a good e-file, because when you invest in a cheap one, the reason it's cheaper because the quality is not good, because the e-file is not as good quality, so you slightly have vibration, or the machine doesn't have the speed that you want to do the work. So if you have to, just borrow money from your family, or just wait until you can invest in a good one. I do not want you to buy a cheapy one and then work on it and you have hard time with it, and then a year or two later you're gonna buy another one. So I'd rather, if I have to borrow money from my family, I'd rather borrow it and invest in a good one, start working, start utilizing the e-file, learn the proper way of using it. So when you start working on your client, you feel more confidence, so you could build your clients quicker that way. Versus you keep worrying, oh my God, this e-file, so it's shaky, it's vibrated. So when the vibration is there, your client will feel it and they're not gonna feel comfortable with it. So from the get-go, just deal with it and pay a good one. That's just my personal preference. I know there's a lot of, cheaper version out there, but I like to buy a good one. So then you start a good techniques, you don't create a bad habits, then it's just a lot easier.
So what brands would you recommend?
I would stick with any company that have service support, like continuous support with your product. I always highly recommend, because I worked with Coupa, I love the product. But there's other company out there that providing e-file now too. Make sure the company has education support for you, service support for you, and help you to maintain that e-file. So that's the key.
What RPM should I set my drill during the process?
Oh, I said that earlier, but if you missed it, she must just tune in then. I always start, because it's all depend on certain e-file and the RPM that they have it available for you, but I would say the lowest is 5 and the highest is 8. So between 5,000 RPM to 8,000 RPM. Go from there. Lowest is 5.
What happens if they almost have no nail?
That's fine. The key is not providing, that's why they come to you. They either want extension or overlay on your service, on the service, right? So your job is, I know I don't like to work on really short nails either, but if that's how they want it, then that's fine. You can tell them, if you don't like it when it's too short, you say them, let me just extend them slightly with acrylic. Then slowly it get all the nail uniform and the same length, and then slowly the nail will grow out. Or gel is fine. I said acrylic because I'm most comfortable with acrylic, but gel and acrylic are all the same thing.
I just want to give a shout out to you guys on the in the chat. You guys are so supportive of each other. I see Carrie and Lovox Nail Wax Studio interacting. I love that. You guys absolutely keep it up. We're all here to support one another. So if you guys have any questions and we haven't been able to answer it, we love that you guys all supporting each other to answer each other's questions. So thank you so much for just being engaging and just asking all these great questions, because we absolutely need to know all the answers to these.
Yeah. Don't feel like, the questions is stupid. There is no stupid questions. I mean, the more you ask, the more you learn. And this is why we want you to give you the techniques. Is like for you to understand what are you doing, and why you are doing it. If you don't know what are you doing and you don't know why you're doing it, then don't do it, because there's no point of just blindly file or shape or do anything. There's no point to it. Understand why you're doing it and build a systematic routine for you. That's how you're gonna be more efficient, and that's how you can turn your client around quicker. Okay? Any questions about hand filing, e-filing so far before I move on?
They said, another person asked, how can I remove my cuticle with e-file? Because it's very painful.
Well, it shouldn't be painful. And this is why I give you the RPM and the bit that you're gonna use. So let's just say you don't wanna use the sanding band. Let's just say you wanna use a diamond bit, right? The RPM doesn't, it's still applied the same, because prepping, you don't need high speed force to do any work. The bit, why you think we have diamond bit and carbide bit? Carbide bit shave more product. This is why we don't that's why all the bits, prep bits are made with diamond, because diamond particle, it's much finer. It's kind of mimic the sanding band anyways, but like I said, the sanding band sometimes might be too big for you and you don't know how to handle it. But I'll show you, you can get tight around with this. So, but if you like the pepper bit or the diamond pepper bit, you could do the same thing. So basically, you just take the diamond bit and you do the same techniques. The techniques doesn't change. It's there for you. It's just matter of preference, whether you like diamond bit or sanding band. So the diamond bit, you have to do the same thing. Just taunt the skin out and turn your client that way. The reason you have to turn, because you have to see the angle that you're going. But if you do this, you can't see the side. So you have to turn this side. So then you keep parallel, the bit parallel to the same direction of the nail, and slowly you see how every time I push up, the dry skin is coming off. This is why you need to take care of the lateral side, okay, and the crevices of that angle. This is why we need the bit for that. You see, I keep my bit very parallel. I'm not angled like this. This is wrong. This is how you keep going back and forth. You're gonna get an indentation, and that's called the rings of fire. But you keep it parallel. You see it? You're just touching that surface, and you're pushing that cuticle lightly. And because you're not using high speed, you're not gonna cut your client. I guarantee you, you're not gonna. You can, you know what? Play it. Do it on yourself. Do it on yourself. Just same thing. You do it yourself. You do like this, right? Because I know you can't do like this. So do it like this, right? And then slowly turn. Play it on yourself. Feel the bit, how it moves, right? I'm just showing you. But you see, even that, I did my nail a few days ago. Even if I do this, look how much dry skin I have already. You see that? Dry skin is always there, and you don't remove it. You don't seal that. You're gonna have problem. You see it? So same technique here, right? You just slightly keep the bit. Look at the angle that I'm going for. This is where our production come in. You can see the angle how I do it. Look at the angle. You see it? I'm not doing this. Okay? This is no. Keep it parallel and barely touch the side. That's why you keep turning. So as I'm moving to this side, I taunt the skin down a little bit, and then this is how I do it. And anchor your e-filing. Keep your pinky anchor so you have more support, and steady your hand, and then just moving along. So then you see where you're going. You're not cutting your client. And the speed that you're using, you're not gonna cut your client, I guarantee you. The only time you cut your client is you keep going back and forth too much, and you're hitting the same spot, and you cutting into her epicnicium or her proximal fold. That's why that's a living tissue, and that's why you cutting into your client. But if you're just cutting the cuticle, the non-living tissue, you are fine. And look how nice that look. So by doing the e-file, you give more contour look around the cuticle area. You see this? I still have little piece right here, okay? And now that I clean, I can see that, right? Now I'm gonna go back. Can you see it? Can you see it? Okay? I'm gonna go back and see if I could do that again. Okay? If I can't get it, then just go back. This is why you need the nylon brush. Brush everything and clean that again. And now I can use the sanding band. The diamond bit. Because this diamond bit grit is 182. Sometimes it's 180 or 220. You can ask when you buy the product from any company, make sure you know the grit of the diamond grit. It's the same with the file. The grit should be the same. So ask for fine or medium only. And that's it. You see, it's the same thing. But like I said, the reason sometimes I don't like to use too much of the diamond bit, you have to buy more products. I find it's cheaper to buy the sanding band than diamond bit, but you need to have a set just in case. Because you have you're gonna have different type of nails, different type of the clients. So you need to have everything ready so then you can use your tool to benefit your work. You see? And I'm barely doing anything, and look how nice it look. And I'm not even done yet. I'm not done with my prepping process yet. Okay? Any more questions? Anybody have any more about e-filing technique with prepping?
Someone asked, what safety measures should I use to prevent rings of fire? I'd love your recommendation for bits I should use.
Okay, so rings of fire, it happens when you use your bit, the way you angle your bit. So let me get medium. Okay, so usually with prepping, it's hard to get rings of fire because you don't use such a strong force with your machine, because you're only using about 5 to 8,000 RPM. It's not strong enough. But like I said, if you keep repeating that area and how you angle your bit, it's really the key here. The reason you have rings of fire because you keep using your bit like this instead of like this. So your key, even when you blend in the acrylic or the gel, the key is to blend them. I know you tend to think that, oh, I need to make this part, flush with the nail, so let me clean really deep in here, and then you keep doing this to get a nice tight. But really, you don't really need to. You just have to blend it seamlessly. So by placing the way you place your bit, it really matters, because by this, you have more indentation. Because first of all, it's more edgy, touching the nail plate. But with this, parallel, if you parallel your bit to the nail, and you see, you have no angle of put that indentation. Does that make sense? Okay, so this, if you want to do this, maybe sometime you have a product on the side and you have to do it. Let's just say you have to do it to clean that really nicely. You could do it, but no more going back and forth. Just do it once or twice, lightly. It's about the pressure too. It's not just about the angle of the bit, but the pressure you put in. The more pressure you put in, that means you putting more force down into the nail plate, and you don't want to do that. Okay, I'm gonna go more in details when it comes to shaping the nails and e-filing. I'm gonna explain that slightly more, because right now we just talk about prepping. But yeah, that's how yeah. Okay, so let's move on. So now you physically prep the nails. So the next step is very important. It's the chemical process of how you prep the nails. So the next thing is really crucial, that you dehydrate and you cleanse the nails. Okay, so a lot of company out there have priming product, dehydrator and primer. This is key when it comes to prepping, okay? Because I love these products because it really helps me to do my job. I mean, there's a lot of brand out there, guys. I can't have it all on my table, but I'm just taking out a few just so then you see. Because so company have a bonder, either pH bonder, which is a dehydrator. It takes oil and moisture off the nail. It's a must-have, I would say, and primer. So the next step you do is when you prep everything, then I usually clean it with alcohol again. I usually use alcohol just to slightly spray it on. Okay, let's just say I spray it on. I clean everything already like I should with all the physical preparation. Let's just say you have the nail plate. So now look how nice and clean that is. You see how at the beginning, and I look how nice and clean. Now, you must use a dehydrator, because let's just say you use alcohol or cleanser. Some product, even with cleanser, has little bit of oil or whatever it is. Even with a 90% alcohol, 10% is still water, right? So with the hydrator, what it does is to dry out all the moisture and oil on top of the nail plate for you. That's what it does. You're supposed to take this and just sparingly apply it on the nail. That's it. So what it does right here is taking care all the oil, body oil, or the oil from the product, and the moisture from the nail. It's kind of like draw it out. It sucks out all that out for you. So then the primer will adhere your product with your nail plate and the product together. So that's what primer does. But the key here is to use dehydrator or Band-Aid. It does the same thing. It put a pH balance normal to your nail plate, so then it will adhere your product a lot better. Any questions so far?
Is there a difference between dry, the e-file/hand file, and then wet soaking water manicure? Which one is better to avoid lifting?
Okay, I know. Whether for a manicure, okay, so regular manicure, right? You use it water, you use cuticle softener to do it. It's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. You need to use that to make your manicure so you can be more efficient with your service. It's fine. At the end of the time, at the end of your service, make sure you wash that, clean that, because even though with the cuticle softener and everything, it has oil and then have scent and everything in it. So you have to wash all that off. Spray it with alcohol, then use dehydrator. Okay? Use a dehydrator or bonder. Put a pH balance into your nail plate. So then you can either go put a base coat and then 2 coat of a polish, and that's it. You could do all that. That doesn't matter you wash your hand or do a manicure or dry manicure. We like to do dry manicure for service, for overlay or an extension, because you put, you know, enhancement products on it. So you don't need to do a wet manicure like a regular manicure service, because you don't need to do all that. A dry manicure, like with the hand filing or the e-filing that I just showed you, it's fine. It's perfect. Just make sure you wash again, wash your hand or spray with alcohol, then use the dehydrator or Band-Aid, and then put primer on if you use enhancement. But you could use Band-Aid, then put the base coat, and then polish. Then I guarantee you will see a major difference in your work. Yeah?
Do you have any advice on e-filing on a non-dominant hand?
E-filing, you could use the same techniques, to be honest with you. You could use the same techniques and same bits. It doesn't change anything. I think the direction of you going is different than us for right-handed nail tech, but the techniques apply the same. Yeah. Okay. So, that will conclude our proper nail prepping. If you guys don't have any questions, I'm gonna move on to the next one, which is acrylic brush. I feel like this class, the reason I focus on the prepping, because you need a good clean surface to work on, right? And now, when you do acrylic, the brush is very important, so I wanna focus on that too. Do we have any more questions?
So what is the benefit of the hydrator? Is it, and then what's the difference between the primer and hydrator?
Okay, so dehydrator is basically, it's draw out your oil, the moisture from the nail plate. So once you prep, you take the shine off, you clean everything, there's still chance of oil and moisture on the plate. So dehydrator will draw all that out and put a pH balance back to your nail plate. So then you can put a primer. Primer is just it's like a bridge connecting your plate and your product together. dehydrator, basically it just draw out your moisture and your oil or any contaminate on your nail plate. Does it? Yeah? Good? Okay. So let's talk about acrylic brushes, right? Acrylic brush is one of the, I would say if not most expensive tool that you have to invest it in, because your tool, your acrylic brush, is where you use it to apply the products on, and then you also sculpt with it. So then you don't waste a lot of time on filing. So when it comes to brushes and how to care them is very important as well. I have a brand new brush here. I'm going to show you how to start season your brush when you have a new one, and I have a used one here as well. So this one is crimped and everything. The round brush and the crimped brush, it's just matter of preference. There's no right or wrong to it. It's some people like it crimped, some people like to keep it round. So again, it's just matter of preference. But let's just say you have a brand new brush. How do you start using it? How do you care of it before you using it? So what you do is, when the brush comes to you, it always have a little starch, like a starch on your brush. It's like that's how they hold all the strands together. It holds the bristles together. So then when they're shipping it out, the hair is not going to get wonky. So that's why they put a little starch. It's like a little glue, almost like glue. Anyway, your job is to take off the plastic seal. You don't want to ever use this again. Throw it away. And then you just kind of take it out, the starch out as much as you can. Okay, just do it with your finger or with the nylon brush. Just brush it out as much as you can. And that's it. Okay, so when you invest in a good brush, usually a good brush is with Kolinsky sable hair, which is the finest hair you can get. And I would recommend that as well, because it's just nice and soft for you to work with. And because the hair is the finest hair, it lasts better too. But it is a little bit more expensive. Again, I highly recommend it for those that are just starting out to invest in a good brush. And this is why I'm going to show you how to maintain them and how to store them well, so then you can keep it for a long time, so you don't have to keep wasting your money buying a new brush. So with this hair, you have to clean it well and maintain it well. So taking all that starch off, then what you do is pour out some monomer. Okay, pour out the monomer. Even though you do your best of taking all that starch out, chances are there's still some trap inside the strands, right? So if I flick it out, I don't know if you can see it, you might see a little dust coming off, which is fine. You want to get rid of it as much as you can. So now what you do is take your monomer, submerge the whole thing in, and just kind of press it out and get all the bubble out. Do that a few times, and then drain them out and clean them out. Get a clean towel and drain it and go back. Doing this, keep doing this until you feel the brush is completely clean. I would say a couple minutes. Just drain everything out and clean them. Maybe press on it a little bit, very lightly press on it, and keep doing that. Because you want to get rid of all the starch in there, or sometimes they might use glue or whatever. You want to basically completely clean the brush before you use it. Okay, so then once you're done with it, keep doing that. Get all the bubble out, keep it clean, and just wipe everything out. And then the last thing you do is wet it again and whip into the shape that is supposed to be. And so that's how you season your brush, a brand new brush. And then with this liquid, you don't want to ever use it. You want to discard it. And if you want to use for your surface, get a brand new liquid. Okay? Because this is contaminated with all the starch already. You don't want to use it. Does that make sense? Okay, so now let's just say you use the brush. I normally don't ever invest in brush cleaner for acrylic brush or any gel brush. Gel brush is a little bit easier because it's made with, most gel brush made with synthetic, so it's slightly more forgiving than Kolinsky natural hair or sable hair. So acrylic brush, it does take a little bit work to maintain it. But each time that I'm applying product, if you notice, I always ask you to pick up the bead, put it on, then wipe that off, and go back with a clean monomer, right? Because you always want to keep your brush clean, so then it's easy to shape the nail or flatten the product. Because think about it, if you don't apply the product on, and then if you don't clean it, you have product here. It will, see, when you go back and flatten your product, if you have product in the brush, it will attract other product. So then you can't get the smooth surface. That's why once you put the product down, always go back and clean the brush. It's the key. If you're just starting out, that's how you practice. Put the bead down, wipe off the brush, go back to the liquid, clean it again, and then go back, pat the product. So that's how you get a clean surface. Okay? So once you're done with all the application of the acrylic, then what you do is go back and clean your brush again with the monomer. But this is the key to here. When you go back and clean the brush with monomer, if you are a beginner, likely you will have a cloudy product. I would say discard that liquid and use a little bit of clean, brand new monomer. Then you can go back and clean it again. Because if you clean your brush with that cloudy, contaminate liquid already, then chances are you're putting that powder back into your brush. If your liquid clean, usually it will. If you become a better nail tech, your monomer usually will be clean at the end of the service because you already have the control how to keep the brush clean while you're doing the surface. But if you are new, don't use the cloudy liquid, okay? Use a brand new, fresh liquid to clean your brush. And then you don't need a lot, just slightly clean it, tap it out a few times, and then tap it again, slightly, and bring it to its shape. Okay? And then you store it with a cap. Put it in a cap or maybe like a little pouch that you have. Save it in there and keep it horizontally when you store it. Don't tilt your brush up this way. Never ever, when you store it, don't ever tilt your brush up. What happens is while using the brush, you use a lot of liquid, right? Even though when you clean it out, tap it out, everything, chances are you still have some liquid on the brush. So then once you store like this, the belly holds a lot of liquid, right? Then slowly the liquid will go down to the ferrule right here. The metal part, the silver part right here is called the ferrule. And then overnight you have all this moisture right here. And then if you close it, that moisture will come older and become this color. So the next day you don't understand why your brush becoming a little yellow and green when you use it. Because you already have the monomer trapped under here. Sometimes you can save it, sometimes you can't. Then you just have to buy a new brush. So this is why it's so important for you to maintain them well and store them well. Okay, so let's talk about the brush. Okay, so I have two brushes here. One's crimped and one is not. Let me explain the anatomy of the nail a little bit, so that when you use the brush, you know why we do certain things. Okay, so the brush. This part to this part is the body of the brush, right? The tip of the brush, you see how each tip of the brush, it has a little bit more dark color at the tip. This brush here, it has a little dark color area. It's the same thing with this, because the type of the hair that you use is like Kolinsky. The tip of the brush is always a little slightly dark. So that's called the flag. The flags of the brush. Okay? And the rest here to here is the belly, right? That's the middle of the part. The belly. And that's where it holds the most liquid. Right? From here to here, that's the belly. And here it's called the shaft. That's the end of the brush, the shaft. And from here to here is the ferrule of the brush, right? That's the metal, usually the metal part. Right? So when you use the brush, you usually use the tip, which is the flag of the brush. And when you pat the product out, you use the belly of the brush. Right? And the shaft of the brush helps to keep the brush thinning it out and keep all the brush together and thinning the product out. So later when I tell you, apply it with the product, use the body of the brush to pat things out so you know which part of the brush that I'm using. So then you can get the sense of what I'm doing. Does that make sense at all so far?
Alright. Katina asked what brush is best, round, oval, or flat? And should I have all three shapes?
No. It's matter of preference. There is no right or wrong to the type of brush that you want to use. When my early years of when I start doing this, I use a lot of round brush. I find that because back then not a lot of brush are crimped, so I only could find round brush. So I'm using it. So actually when you use round, the way you shape, the way you flatten it out, and how you use it is the same thing. You see it? How I flatten it out like this when I'm using it. When I store it to the shape that it comes with, because I want to keep the original shape and keep everything, the hair together. But when I use it, I can flatten it out the same way. I can flatten it out and look, it's flat too, right? It's flat too, right? So, and then crimped, it's nice, it's crimped and flat. It's just easier for you. But I have to say, it's probably better to have a crimped brush when you're starting out, because when you pick up the product, you only use one side of it, so you can see easily one side is already crimped. So then you use one side, and then you pick up the product on the other side. So when you draw out one side, when you pick up the product, it's on the other side. So the shape is already there, then it's slightly easier for you to work with. But when you're comfortable with acrylic brushes and you already like a seasoned nail tech, then I would say it's just matter of preference. And for beginners, I highly recommend, like before, between 8 and 10. 8 and 10 size. I would not recommend you go 12 or 14. That's too big for you. If you feel 8 is slightly small, then start with 10. But 8 and 10, I would say the best number to start out with. Okay? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, I'm going to move on. So now you know the anatomy of the brush, right? So next time if I tell you to use the body of the brush, the tip of the brush, then you know where area that I'm focusing on. Okay? So then let me go on how to maintain and store the brush, right? Like I said earlier, to keep it clean, you always use your liquid. The liquid monomer, it has a lot of good product in there because it doesn't have any chemical that harm the brush. It's actually conditioning your brush. So I would say your liquid monomer is the best product to maintain the brush, okay? So now, let's just say you use the product, you use the brush, and especially when you're new at this, you have acrylic on the brush. How can you take it off without damaging the hair of your brush, right? It's really key here, because once you invested in a good hair, Kolinsky hair, you know it's not cheap, it's expensive. So, and there's chances are you're gonna have a lot of, mishap when you use the brush when you're starting out. So the key here is, if you can only have a little bit, you can soak in your monomer for an hour or two. That will dissolve the powder as well, if you only have a little bit on it. But let's just say you have like a bead in there and it's get hardened and you can't soak it with monomer. There's so much monomer can do for you. So you have to soak it with acetone. So the best thing is you can soak in acetone. I don't recommend it, but when you have to, you have to. So let's just say you have a chunk in there and you want to soak with acetone. So soak in acetone, but constantly try to remove it yourself so then you don't have to soak the brush too long. Okay? You soak it with acetone for maybe 10-15 minutes and try to get it off as much you can with the nylon brush. Just kind of brush it out if you can, or use a towel. Keep pressing that powder out. Okay, once you soak with acetone, now all your hair, your strands is dried out. So the brush is not soft anymore. So how you condition it? Then you take that brush, soak it with warm water for a couple minutes. What it does with the warmth of the water, it strains the hair down, because once you soak it with acetone, the hair is get frayed and get, dried out. So soaking with warm water, the warmth of the water will straighten the hair out and it brings the hair back to the shape slightly. Once you do that for maybe a couple minutes, make sure you see the hair is kind of soft and go back to normal shape again. Then you take the monomer, a fresh monomer, okay? You get a fresh one, then soak it in for like, if you have time, I'd rather have you soak it in for like half an hour to an hour. Sometime, maybe even up to 2 hours for the liquid monomer to condition your brush again. Just keep it there, soak it. But if you have to use it right away, I know sometimes in salon, if you have to, then soak it for a couple minutes. You can use that, but the best here to soak it for like, and maybe half an hour to an hour, or sometimes up to 2 hours, depend how damaging, you did to the hair. And then just soak it off, soak it for up to 2 hours, then dry it out, and then keep it dry. Okay? Does that make sense? Do they have any questions?
We have a question that says, is there a way to reduce the odor of the monomer, and is there a scent-free / chemical-free one?
This is just my opinion. I don't like when company put scent in your monomer, because anytime when you add extra chemical to your natural chemical, the liquid that the intention for it to use with powder, because that can interfere a little bit, and that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like the smell of it. I have to wear a mask when I work. The reason I don't wear it when I'm teaching or when I'm teaching is because I can't show you guys. But in the salon, everyday environment, I do wear a mask. And now with this pandemic, you really have to. So learn to wear a mask. I mean, chemical is part of what you have to deal with. This is your livelihood. This is what you have to deal with. I can say, I'd rather not. But if that's your preference, then that's okay. If the company tried for you, I mean, the company offer that for you, and you use it and you don't have problem with it, that's fine. But in my opinion, I don't like it because they're just taking things and try to sell it to you, and if you like it, that's fine.
All right, we have a couple more questions here. It says Jasmine comments that I was told to add more primer if the person is known to lift. I'm assuming the nail.
Okay, I heard that a lot. In my opinion, you can do that, but I find it, for me, it's more effectively if I use a dehydrator. The reason your client is prone to lifting, part of it because either they have very oily hands and nails, their natural oil, that's just their body have natural oils, so a lot on the nail plate and on their hands, or they use a lot of water for their, they either deal with a lot of washing hands, like nurses, they wash their hands a lot. A lot of hand washing is not good because you over hydrating your hands. So I learned that if I dehydrate it twice, I'm taking the extra oil from that nail plate. I find that works too. So you can prime twice or dehydrate twice. Try both and see what works for you.
All right, Satiner, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but they asked, when you work, why does bubbles come with acrylic and hard gel?
Let me deal with acrylic. Gel, let's just wait for, I'm planning to do a gel courses as well if you guys want to do that. But let's focus on acrylic, right? So acrylic, the reason is bubble because, let me clean this liquid out and I'm gonna clean this out. Let me get a fresh liquid, okay? And then hang it.
A lot of people are commenting in the chat right now saying that they love the smell of monomer. As someone I grew up in the salon, I don't personally work with nails, but I smell it all the time. I feel that the smell of monomer is kind of oddly satisfying. It brings me a little comfort to smell it. I don't know why, but it seems like you guys are too. So I'm not the only one, and that's okay. So everyone seems to love the smell.
Okay, so the reason it bubbles, okay, let's just say you start with a surface, right? Your surface of your acrylic step. The first thing I always do when I start, before applying the powder, I always submerge. You see how I put in and little bubble come out already? Because your brush is dried up, right? So now by submerge the whole brush in and kind of like press it down lightly, I'm pressing out the bubbles inside the brush. And that's really the key to start out with. You do that, I do this few times and keep pressing it out and kind of like, see, every time you press it out, you see bubble. And you do this a couple of times until you don't see the bubble anymore. That means your brush is ready to use because now it's totally submerged in the liquid monomer and it has monomer in there. It's not dried and its brush is clean. So then I just gonna tap everything out, do it a few times, and then I tap out the final draw and then I dip in the powder. But you need to do this first. Does that help?
Yeah, someone commented, burp the brush.
What?
Burp the brush.
Oh, burp? Well, yeah, sort of, yeah, because you're kind of patting it down. You're kind of pressing the bubble out. That's a good one. I like that.
That's funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So just pressing it out, both sides a little bit. Just do this a couple of times. You don't have to do a lot. It's become a natural, seriously. Once you do this, it become a natural. And then just press it out and then start your process. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any more questions about prepping the nails and the brushes?
Can you, as people are asking questions, if you guys do have any, make sure to put it in the chat. But can you just go over the schedule for the next couple days for the rest of our acrylic training series?
Actually, you do. You have the schedule, right?
Um,
So the next one, okay. So the next class we do is we're gonna deal with liquid. So now you know the brush, the anatomy of the brush, how to season the brush, how to maintain and store them. So now the next key I want to talk about is the liquid, and we're gonna dab into a little bit about EMA and MMA. I'm not gonna talk about the chemistry side of it because I'm not a chemist, but I can tell you why in the industry most companies refer to use EMA versus MMA, and we're gonna go a little bit over that. And then, but mainly I want to talk about the powder and liquid ratio because I know that's a lot of people concerned right now. Is like how to use a brush, how to pick up the product and the powder. We're gonna go detail on that mainly the powder and liquid ratio and how to pick the consistency of each bead every time. Okay, so the third class we're going to talk about nail structure, the architect of a nail shape. So we're going to talk about where you want to place mostly the product on where and where you want to keep it thin. So we're going to talk about the apex, the C curve, the convex, the concave of the nail, and the side walls. So then you understand when you use the powder and liquid where to place the product and how you can shape them, you know. We're not gonna do so much on shaping, but we just talk about the nail structure itself. So now you know where to lay the products, yeah? So those are the 3 classes that I wanna focus on. I do plan another 3 classes after that, which is the 4th day, which is the basic, the acrylic application, the overlay, and the cuticle, how you lay the product, how you do the cuticle area, and how to do extension a little bit, and how to talk about the overlay itself, and mainly just working on the application itself. The 5th class, we're going to talk about the E-file and hand shape the nails. So then you get, you know, now you lay down the product, how can you shape it into the shape that you want? And the sixth class that I'm going to focus on is talk about the shapes of the nails and the thickness of it, how overall you can shape it into the thickness that you want. I might make those 3 into 2 classes. I haven't decided yet, but those are the next 3 classes after the first 3.
all right, just to clarify, so this is the day 1 of the 3 days. I just want to clarify that each day that we have the class, it will be a different link, which means that if you signed up for today, that means you got the link, and that means that we've been sending you emails. And so now you don't have to sign up anymore because you're on our email list, and we'll be sending out the links to you the days before. So maybe tomorrow just keep an eye out for the link for Friday's class, and then so on. So just make sure, keep that in mind, that every day that we have a class, it's going to be a different link. You can go back to this particular link of the class to rewatch the class, but just moving forward, just keep an eye out in your email inboxes for that link. If you're not, for some reason, not receiving our emails, make sure just to check into your spam or junk folder. I know sometimes when you sign up for different things, your inbox might just put that in there, and that's why you might not be able to see the email. But I'm assuming that if you guys are watching this now, that you guys did receive the link, but just in case, to keep that in mind. So moving forward, just make sure to check your emails.
Okay, so basically what we shared today is how to hand file and how to e-file when it comes to prepping. You can do both, or you know, I taught you to do both, but you don't have to do both. I mean, personally, I prefer the e-filing techniques because I find it's more efficient, but I always show you can do the same thing. And then we also talk about the acrylic brushes, what it is. Now you know better the anatomy of the nail, the acrylic brush, I'm sorry. And then the how to season a brand new brush and how to maintain and store them. So again, the key here to store them is to put in a cap, because this one, it has the cap along with it. So I usually take the brush and mold it back to the shape that it comes with, originally comes with, and put in the cap, and make sure the cap has little hole for ventilating, okay? Because that's the key too. You don't want the cap sealed tightly because it needs air, right? So then you just put it back, and then you want to place it horizontally or put it in the little pouch that you have and keep it lay flat because you don't want to tilt the brush up again. You don't want to do that, okay? So that is the conclusion of our class. I hope you enjoyed the class. I went through a really lot of basic techniques. So if you have any more questions, feel free to ask me through this chat or maybe message us on Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, so I really hope with these techniques you can, prep your nails a lot better and take care of your brush a lot better. Thank you all for tuning in. Yeah, if you don't have any more questions, Tiff, do you have any more questions?
All right, so thank you guys for joining again. Like I said in the beginning of the class, our goal and our purpose of our channel is to just provide so much value and knowledge to you guys as nail artists, professionals, and just nail technicians, whether you're a beginner and whether you have been doing it for years, and whether you're watching from New Zealand or from Texas or here in California. We appreciate your support of our channel. If you would love to continue further supporting us, we have a donation link in our description box. So if you are willing and able, we would love for you to donate to help support our team. Your donations go directly to helping with the production and the team behind that production. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the class today because we have such a great team behind us, and it would mean the world to us if you can support us. If you, however, can't support financially, that is perfectly okay. We completely understand these hard times. If you can just take a screenshot and just share something on your social media of what you learned today and just tag us. We want to see you guys and how you guys are learning. So if you can't support us financially, totally fine. We understand. We appreciate every way that you guys support us. And we just want to thank you in advance for donating to us and just for supporting us however you can. Again, if you want to donate to us, the link is in the description box, and we hope to see you again for day 2 of our training.
All right, guys. Don't forget to subscribe our channel and follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Have a good one, guys. See you next time. Bye.